Let's talk about Jenny-Wanda Barkmann, the Nazi guard who was once referred to as Germany's beautiful Specter. This is a dive into her life, her crimes, and her eventual execution. Jenny-Wanda Barkmann was born on May 30, 1922, in Hamburg, Germany. At a time when Germany was still reeling from the devastating effects of World War I, she grew up in a country grappling with economic depression, national humiliation, and the rising tide of extremist ideologies. Little is known about her childhood and family life, but some reports suggest that she aspired to become a fashion model in her youth. Whether this ambition was genuine or part of the mythologizing narratives that followed her is debatable. Nonetheless, her youthful beauty became an eerie contrast to the monstrous persona she would later embody by 1944, at the age of 21, Barkmann had abandoned any pretense of a normal life and volunteered to serve as an SS Aufseherin, otherwise known as a female overseer at the Stutthof concentration camp, located near Gdańsk in occupied Poland. At this stage in the war, Nazi Germany was desperate for personnel to manage its vast network of death camps, and women were increasingly recruited as guards. Out of the approximately 55,000 personnel who served as concentration camp guards, around 3,700 were women. Barkmann became part of this chilling minority who embraced their roles with fervor. Once stationed at Stutthof, Barkmann swiftly gained notoriety for her viciousness. Inmates nicknamed her the Beautiful Specter, a title that captured the disturbing dichotomy between her physical appearance and her sadistic tendencies. Accounts from survivors describe her as a strikingly attractive young woman who exuded a cold, detached demeanor. However, her beauty served only as a deceptive veneer, masking a heart that had become hardened by cruelty. Barkmann was not a passive bystander, but an active participant in the camp's machinery of death. She was known to administer severe beatings to prisoners, sometimes beating them to death with her own hands. Her involvement in the selection process for the gas chambers is well documented. She would decide who among the sick, elderly, and children would be sent to their deaths, often with chilling indifference. Some testimonies recount that she took a perverse pleasure in tormenting inmates, a trait that even some of her fellow guards found unsettling. Unlike other SS women who attempted to minimize their roles post-war, Barkmann never showed signs of remorse during or after her tenure at Stutthof. Her cold-blooded efficiency in carrying out genocidal policies epitomized the dehumanizing effect of absolute power, combined with Nazi indoctrination. As the tides of war shifted and the Red Army closed in on German-occupied territories, the Nazis began evacuating camps to cover their atrocities. By early 1945, Stutthof was in a state of disarray. Jenny-Wanda Barkmann fled the camp as Soviet forces approached, attempting to vanish into the civilian population of Gdańsk. However, her escape was short-lived. In May 1945, she was apprehended at a train station, reportedly, while trying to blend in as a civilian. Her arrest marked the beginning of a legal reckoning. The Allies were determined to prosecute those responsible for the Holocaust, and Barkmann's name had already surfaced in survivor testimonies as one of the camp's most notorious female overseers. She was soon put on trial in what became known as the First Stutthof Trials. The Stutthof Trials, held in 1946 in Gdańsk, were among the earliest efforts to bring Nazi war criminals to justice. Jenny-Wanda Barkmann stood trial alongside 12 other defendants, including 6 other female SS guards and 6 capos, also known as prisoner functionaries. The trials were a significant historical moment, not only for their legal ramifications, but also for their stark exposure of female complicity in idiotic Nazi crimes. Court proceedings revealed the extent of Barkmann's brutality. Witnesses recounted harrowing stories of her violent outbursts, her cruel selections, and her apparent lack of empathy. Throughout the trial, Barkmann maintained a disturbing level of nonchalance. Reports indicate that she appeared indifferent, sometimes even flippant. She would frequently change her hairstyle, as though the courtroom was a fashion stage rather than a tribunal for crimes against humanity. She reportedly flirted with guards and observers, giving the impression that she remained detached from the gravity of her situation. Her own defense attorney argued that she must be mentally ill, asserting that no sane individual could have committed such atrocities without remorse. However, the overwhelming weight of survivor testimonies and evidence left little room for leniency. The tribunal found her guilty of crimes against humanity and sentenced her to death by hanging. On July 4, 1946, Jenny-Wanda Barkmann faced her execution at Biskupia Gorka Hill in Gdańsk. It was a public execution, attended by an estimated 200,000 spectators, many of whom were former prisoners or locals who had witnessed the horrors of Nazi occupation firsthand. The execution was designed to serve not only as a form of justice, but also as a potent symbol of retribution and closure for a war-ravaged community. The method of execution was short-drop hanging, a brutal technique designed to cause a slow and agonizing death. However, Barkmann's execution became infamous for its chaotic execution. The vehicle intended to drive out from under her, thus initiating the hanging, failed to start. After a tense moment, a former prisoner, acting as an executioner, took matters into their own hands and manually pushed Barkmann off the platform. She died instantly. The macabre scene that followed underscored the morbid fascination surrounding her persona. Spectators rushed forward to claim morbid souvenirs from her body. Things such as buttons from her dress, pieces of her clothing, and even snippets of her hair. Her body was later used for anatomical demonstrations, a stark reversal of the objectification she had once used to manipulate and torment others. Persistent rumors claim that her ashes were disposed of in public toilets in Hamburg. Although this has never been conclusively verified, Jenny-Wanda Barkmann's life is a harrowing tale of how an individual can willingly embrace a role in humanity's darkest chapter. From her early years in Hamburg to her final moments on the gallows, her story is steeped in paradox. A young woman of striking beauty who descended into a life of sadistic violence, unrepentant to the bitter end. Her legacy remains a powerful narrative, ensuring that history remembers not just the faceless machinery of the Holocaust, but also the messed-up individuals like Barkmann, who chose to make themselves its instruments and puppets. Thanks for watching.